If you've had other dogs before that weren't a doodle mix, you might have wondered what's going to be a big deal about their coats. Holy moly. Coming with the non shedding, more hypoallergenic side of things comes a lot of maintenance on our end. The more furnishings, that means how much kink and curl is in your doodle's coat. The less shedding, but the more maintenance that is involved. If your doodle has a mix between their other mix and the poodle, um, that can get matted a lot faster. So poodles do get matted, but they don't have a mix of an undercoat. There is no undercoat. If your dog has a looser, more likely to shed coat, that means flatter, less kink, you're not going to need to do as much maintenance. They're not as easily matted, but you still need to keep up with their coat. They're not going to just shed it all out. They still need to get regular trims. Their hair is like ours, where it just keeps growing. And if you weren't to brush your hair or comb your hair, you could see I've got my own curly coat. If I were to not comb this or wash this for 6 weeks and have a headband around, kind of like a collar or a harness, and I wore that for 6 weeks, you'd have to shave my head too. So, I want to walk you through the tools and the methods to keep your doodle's coat healthy and comfortable. First, let me show you the tools that you need. The first is called a brush. Now, this is a pin brush. This is the best one that exists. When I first got our standard poodle Hershey, I saw the price of this and I knew it was the most highly recommended by groomers and poodle parents alike. And I was like, there's no way I'm spending more than $50 on a brush. Well, I spent more than $50 trying a bunch of other brushes, and still I bought this one. It's Chris Christensen, the Coral brush. This one's the large. If you're only getting one brush and your dog's more than 15 pounds, I would just go for the large. You can get the medium if you wanted for spots like under the armpits or on the legs or paws, but you don't really need a second smaller one. And your doodle will appreciate if you have the larger head on it so that it goes quicker. Now, let me talk you through a couple reasons why this one's so great. If I go against my own skin like this, it doesn't hurt. And I don't have any fur coat on the palm of my hand. But the tiny little needles, excuse the little fur that's still in there. The tiny little needles are able to rake down if your dog has an undercoat or a little lower um, through the coat if there is no undercoat. And it's able to rake all the way through. Now you're going to want to do what's called line brushing. I'm going to have a separate video that describes that, and I'll show you what that looks like on a doodle. But you're going sections at a time. First, you're going to use your slicker brush. Second, you need to have a greyhound comb. This is what a greyhound comb looks like. Now, luckily, these are cheap and it doesn't matter which one you get. A greyhound comb is a greyhound comb. You could buy the $5 ones on Amazon. So if you look here, these teeth on the greyhound comb, they're a little rounded. You just need to be able to comb through to the skin on your doodle. If you use just this, you might just get the top of the coat. There are tons of doodle parents who go to the groomers and say, I brush my doodle every day. They can't be matted. When they go in the back, the doodle groomer takes one of these combs out, tries to brush through to the skin, and if they can't, they're not able to trim your dog. Let me tell you a secret. So, groomers, they use clippers. If you haven't played around with groomer clippers, it's just like you would see at a guy's barber shop where they have the covers on the top and those heads have these teeth. If the clippers can't glide through the coat down to the skin, they can't use the clipper with the guard with the teeth. And that means they have to go under the mat. And that means they can't use the guard and leave length on your doodle's coat. So if you want to test ahead of time to see if your dog's going to need to get the dreaded shave down, this is the key. You can work through some mats at home, and if you want to do so, you'll find those mats if they're not obvious. Hopefully, they're not too big. You'll find them with the Greyhound comb, and you can give your doodle a head start working through. You'll find really quickly the mats take a long time to work out in a comfortable way for your doodle. So, if your doodle's already going to the groomer and they are getting their bath, their high velocity blow dry, they're standing on a table, they need to stand this whole time, and they're going through a difficult, sometimes painful dematting, you can understand why, when it's already a 3-hour groom, a groomer might say it's not fair to the doodle to put them through that in all of one session. Now, let me go through one other thing. If your doodle has a really soft, loose, low curl coat, so if I'm looking at my own hair, I got the tighter curls here, and then for some reason I'm like a doodle with a mixed coat. These are much straighter with no kink. I don't know why. This is a great pin brush from Chris Christensen as well. It's not going to get through curls. It goes through wavy, looser coats really nicely, where you're still going to follow it with the Greyhound. Now, let's say you're going through and you do find some mats using a I've done a trial run of 2 of the top 2. This one is Matte X by Arturo, and this one's Cowboy Magic. This one's a gel, this one's a spray. And one of the tricks, if you have some mild matting, is to take the spray and spray it on your slicker brush. If you use a ton of detangler spray on your doodle, you're going to find that they get kind of greasy. And just like us, if we have a lot of buildup on our hair, it's going to lead to more tangles, and it's just going to continue, and then you're in a cycle. But a slight spritz of this when you're doing a dry groom, when you're just maintaining their coat, not after a bath, is going to make it more comfortable for your doodle, and it's going to make getting through any tangles quicker and easier. Now, some people like to do a summer shave where they just shave their doodle down once a year. Well, that's similar to what I described. If you had hair on your head, some of the dads here might not have as much, but with the hair on your head, if you didn't uh, bathe it, condition it, and brush it, and you had a headband on it all the time, and you just shaved it off once a year, think of the infections on your skin that you would have underneath. But then there's the added level of pain. So we're not really moving our scalp around as we're running and playing and laying down and stretching out. But with their coat over their full body, if a doodle has tangles in the hot spots like their armpits, behind their ears, on their belly, around their neck, under the collar, an analogy that I've heard is, imagine you're a man with some thick 1970s chest hair, and you were to zip up your sweater really fast and catch the chest hair in the zipper. Well, then you're going to run around and go for a jog with the chest hair in that zipper. I don't have chest hair, and it's not the 1970s, but I can only imagine and empathize with a man in that scenario, or the doodle whose hair is caught really tight at tangle. And every time they try to run or stretch, then their movement is restricted. So when we're doing just that annual or semi-annual shave down, yes, we're not brushing their coats often, so it's saving all of us some effort and labor. But and you're if it's a doodle that doesn't like their coat being brushed, you're saving them that, but you are letting them have those tangles that can really restrict their comfort during play. Additionally, some really bad skin infections can occur under the mats because there's no air circulation underneath. It gets really pelted. So that's a difficult piece as well. If your doodle doesn't like getting groomed, or it's just not something that your family is able to fit into your schedule, you can do regular, really short haircuts. You don't have to go for the long coat. So that is another option. You just don't want to wait 6 months or a year to do so. That raises a really important topic of how often should I get my doodle in for grooming? Now, if you want to keep your doodle's coat longer, if you love that shaggy teddy bear look, you're going to want to talk to your groomer. They will most likely recommend that you're there every 4 to 6 weeks. I bring my Cavapoo Nestle in about every 5 weeks. Sometimes 6 feels a little long, sometimes 4 doesn't seem necessary, but we average around 5 weeks. I schedule our grooming sessions a year out in advance. Here in Denver, Colorado, especially with the addition of lots of pandemic puppies, a lot of groomers are filling up far out. So that's the ideal schedule if you want to be maintaining their coat and you love that teddy bear shaggier look. Let's say you want to go shorter, you can space it out more. It takes a while for the coat to get long enough to create those mats and tangles. So if you do a regularly really short cut, that's great, especially if your doodle loves playing in the water, and you want to be able to do frequent baths. That brings us to a point about bathing. So every time water touches a tangle, it cements it into a mat. If there is a mat already on your doodle's coat and they get a bath or go swimming, now that mat is possible to get through. So it's a lot of work to give a long coated doodle a bath because you need to get through and brush all of the tangles first before they get in the water. And then, of course, it's pretty logical when you're giving the bath, you're not really rubbing in there. You're doing the massage and getting down to their skin, but you're not trying to create more tangles with friction or when you're drying them off. When you're done bathing your doodle's coat, you have to use a high velocity dryer every single time when you have a coat that is long at all, unless it's kept super, super short. A high velocity dryer is a high velocity pet dryer. They just work so much better at blowing the coat out straight. Yeah, they look like floof balls, and that's not usually the look that everyone likes. I got a secret for you on how to change that later. But if you don't get the coat straight first, grooming between now and the next time that coat gets wet is going to be a pain. If you can't get that coat straight from the down to the skin, then you're going to be brushing through tangles that develop quicker until the next time you are able to blow that coat out. Blowing your doodle's coat out, if you have a high velocity dryer, can go pretty quickly. And we can talk more about desensitizing them to the loud sound. There's tips like covering their ears, etc. So I don't take my doodle swimming at the lake, etc., very much because I don't always have time to do that whole process. And I do know that he's a dog who loves swimming, so we make sure we make time, but we don't just throw him in the bath and let him shake it off because then I know that's a recipe for him to have those painful tangles and mats. And I want grooming to be comfortable and easy for him. So every single time I've given our Doodle Nestle a bath, we always finish with the high velocity dryer, and it comes out super fluffy, but we're able to have successful grooming from then until the next bath. Now, additionally, if you don't have time for all of that, but you love your dog being clean, you can drop your doodle off to the groomers just for a bath and blow dry. So it's almost like, I don't know if you've been to the dry bar for us humans, where they're not cutting the hair, but they're doing a great shampoo and a beautiful blow dry for you, saving your arm muscles that work. Well, that's similar to that. Some doodles will add things like a sanitary trim that's just trimming up their privates so things stay nice and clean around their eyes so they can see nicely, and a nail trim. You can do that every 2 to 3 weeks if you'd like. And that's also a great strategy if you're trying to grow the coat longer, and you want to space out your grooming appointments more. They're cheaper, and it also keeps your doodle's coat nice and healthy and free of tangles. I mentioned a tip if you don't like when your doodle's coat is super floofy after being blown out by the blow dryer, either at home or at the groomers. If you get a water bottle, do a mist onto the coat, the tips of the doodle's coat will kind of turn into those formed cute little coils or get more piecey while still staying loose to the skin. So you'll still be able to comb through easier, but you'll get the look that you like. Some people worry that their doodle is mortified when they pick up their doodle from the groomer. If your doodle went in full of mats or just a really long coat and they got shaved down or a really short cut, they might look like they're embarrassed. I often joke when we see our doodle clients, your doodle looks naked, which probably doesn't help things to their parent, but your doodle does not feel like their privates or their skin are exposed or that they look ugly. They feed off of our reactions. So a lot of times when those doodles come out of the groomer, a lot of parents are like, "Oh, friend," and they pick on the up on that right away. But what's also happening is they feel a lot of new sensations. If they've had a really thick coat and now it's gone, they feel temperature different, they feel the breeze more. All of those sensations are different. A lot of doodles, especially if they've had tangles that have been painful, silently painful, they get the zoomies when they get home and run around super free and happy. So doodles don't feel embarrassed when they get a haircut we don't like, but they might feel differently for a little while and they'll get used to it. Just like if you get a really short haircut and you go to put all the shampoo in your hand in the shower and then you realize, oh, I don't need that much. This was a lot faster. Or you get your hair cut really short and you feel the breeze on your neck and you notice it. It's similar to that for our doodles. So I'll share a quick video of what it looks like to do line brushing. But if you want the tools that you need, these are my go-tos. The Chris Christensen Big G Coral Brush. That's a slicker. Any Greyhound comb and a detangling spray. I did a time trial between this spray and others, and this one worked the fastest without any bad residue. And again, you could spray it right here. If your doodle has had any training where people have sprayed them at a daycare or something for barking, etc., you might need to spray it right onto the brush, onto them if they have an aversive reaction to getting sprayed, but they'll appreciate the comfort. So these are the three things I would have in my toolkit for my Doodles brush. And one other piece. Some people, let's see. And